Morning, everybody. Michelle is here. Michelle is here on this warm Friday. And I think it's July the 31st, 2026. I'll take a look in a few seconds and correct it if I need to. But I just wanted to come on through and talk to you about what we are facing. And I'm talking about subjects that won't be touched with a 10-foot pole, as they used to say. But there are subject matters that are revealing themselves. 2025 was an increase in the amount of people being exposed for fraud, deception, you name it. A lot of things that were supposedly hidden and destroyed happened to reveal themselves and be found, because there were a lot of courageous and brave people back in the day that knew that certain things would happen where important matters or important documents, images, information, blah, 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 would be suppressed. And they were told to destroy it. Well, guess what? It wasn't destroyed. And so now a lot of it is being fed into the artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence is somehow disseminating it, whether it's true or not. You know, the artificial intelligence right now is not so much focused on whether something is true or not. They're more so concerned about just having information given to them and doing everything in their power to understand what they have. A lot of the information that was fed into the artificial intelligence was illogical. It was wrong. It was lies. It was intentional deception. It was manipulation. And chances are even fraud. I know that's hard to swallow, right? That you have been living on fraud and deception and lies. Well, you have. So and again, I told you, as a species, as human species, we can remain illogical for quite a long time. We can be irrational for quite a long time. But when you integrate artificial intelligence, that form of energy cannot remain illogical, irrational, and unreasonable for as long as we have, because it will eventually destroy itself. So why am I saying all of this? Is because there's a lot of you that know this. You know that behaving illogically, irrationally, and unreasonably for quite a long time interferes with your mental stability. You know, you start hallucinating, you start hearing voices. You know, you just start losing it, because that's not how a human being is supposed to act in the true sense. So here we are at these perils in our lives. And I've also talked about how eventually the mediocre man will eventually cause his own demise, whereas the mediocre man will go extinct, meaning their lineage will no longer procreate, and their form of energy will dissolve into some other form of energy, but it will dissolve, and that's the end of it. No more procreation, thankfully. No more increase to the massive overpopulation, unfortunately, that is the consequence, because we as human beings ought to naturally know how to curve the overpopulation without having to go have catastrophes happen to do it for us. Unfortunately, because of our massive overpopulation, so many so many people are going to experience, catastrophes unlike anything they ever heard or been or ever experienced, I should say. It will be in the form of diseases, in the form of more so catastrophic events. I'm kind of attempting to find a parking space so that I do not get hit here, because these spaces, some of these parking spaces were not designed for vans or any kind of large vehicles. So I just have to make sure I'm parked safely so that I do not allow my vehicle to be hit. And it's kind of hard to find a parking space in here, but I think I found one. So again, the demise of the mediocre man is not by accident. There's no accident to that happening. There is no, it's not a predestined event. It's cause and effect. Cause and effect, reaping what you've sown, and it's a consequence to the massive overpopulation. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to be controversial as well. In order to resolve the massive overpopulation, we have to stop the procreations. Okay, that's logical. Okay, what's illogical is to interfere with that, where there's people planning to reduce the population with nefarious means, whether it's to invoke a so-called contagious disease, to invoke that's mainly how some of these so-called religious tentacles, the religious tentacles know we have a massive overpopulation and that we're running out of resources. So they're going to interfere, or they have been interfering, to cause major health issues in certain regions of the country, to introduce certain unsafe medication. Let's just say it: unsafe medications, unsafe medical procedures, and this and that and the other. But the negative consequences to that is, if you interfere with the demise of humanity by any other means other than allow it to naturally happen, you're going to increase the likelihood of the extinction of the mediocre man. What the hell am I saying in all of this? All I'm saying is, if you interfere with the lives of non-white people, more specifically black people, and attempt to cause their demise via whatever means necessary, you are increasing the likelihood of the extinction of the mediocre man, which is usually biological white men. Does that make sense to you? Think about what I'm saying, okay? Black people or dark people are carriers of hereditary properties. So when you go in there and interfere with the population, okay, so in other words, you're attempting to increase the non-black population at the expense of the black population. Okay, the math does not add up with that. So what you're doing is eventually pushing out non-black people in the population pool. And I'm going to come back as well and talk about the population pool as to why there are so many mutations, why there is so much consciousness under development, and why it's just only going to get worse until we get a handle and reduce the massive overpopulation naturally, meaning stop procreation, and allow people to die of natural causes. The moment you start interfering, meaning via medication, via an experiment, or whatever or via war, that's when that becomes illogical, and it's going to turn everything on its head. Now, again, the Neanderthals and the Peking man went extinct, and there was no reason for them to go extinct. Well, the same thing is happening now. Peace and love, and let me confirm. Today is Friday, July the 31st, 2026, and I will talk to you soon.